Good evening, everyone.
There is.
Okay. There is an OWLS sign-up sheet in the back, so if you are interested in going to eat with the OWLS group, please do that. Also, make sure if you haven't already signed up for VBS, I challenge you to just try something new, try something different. I've already talked to y'all about age not mattering when it comes to Vacation Bible School. You're here, you're breathing, and you're still relevant, so don't just think that you're not. VBS is a very enjoyable time to spend with some kids and mentor them, especially when you consider, let's see if I can guilt trip you into thinking that a lot of these kids probably don't have time with their grandparents. They don't have time with those adults, and they would enjoy possibly that time with you. So don't just assume, I've done my deed. No, you still draw breath. You are still useful to the Lord here. Is there anything else pertinent?
There's a sign-up sheet in the back for the pool sign-up when we do it for VBS. There's a sign-up sheet back there for that. There's a sign-up sheet back there for Triple F as well. It's coming up the first Thursday in June. Next Sunday morning, don't forget about Bob, Band of Brothers, and then at noon, hit it with your head. Oh, there you go. The meal, potluck meal next Sunday afternoon after church, with the dessert auction. So bring lots of food next Sunday. Do what? You bet. And you need to, when you bring in your desserts, let the ladies know whether it's for the sale or whether it's for the meal, like for us to eat with the meal, or whether it's for sale for the auction. Why don't y'all stand together? Just got done with choir, and my voice is starting to go elsewhere. So y'all sing good and loud as we sing, Blessed Redeemer. Up Calvary's mountain, one dreadful morn, walked Christ my Savior, weary and worn, facing for sinners death on the cross, that he might save them from endless loss. Blessed Redeemer, precious Redeemer, seems now I see him on Calvary's tree, wounded and bleeding, for sinners pleading, blind and unheeding, dying for me. Father, forgive them, thus did he pray, e'en while his life blood flowed fast away, praying for sinners while in such woe. No one but Jesus ever loved so. Blessed Redeemer, precious Redeemer, Seems now I see him on Calvary's tree, wounded and bleeding, for sinners pleading, blinded and heeding, dying for me. Oh, how I love him, Savior and friend. How can my praises ever find end? Through years unnumbered on heaven's shore, my tongue shall praise him forevermore. Blessed Redeemer, precious Redeemer, seems now I see him on Calvary's tree, wounded and bleeding, for sinners pleading, blind and unheeding, dying for me. Y'all may be seated. Free from the law, oh, happy condition, Jesus hath bled, and there is remission. Cursed by the law and bruised by the fall, grace hath redeemed us once for all. Once for all, a sinner receive it. Once for all, friend, now believe it. Cling to the cross, the burden will fall. Christ hath redeemed us once for all. Now we are free, there's no condemnation. Jesus provides a perfect salvation. Come unto me, oh, hear his sweet call. Come and he saves us once for all. Once for all, oh, sinner receive it. Once for all, oh, friend, now believe it. Cling to the cross, the burden will fall. Christ hath redeemed us once for all. Children of God, oh, glorious calling, surely his grace will keep us from falling, passing from death to life at his call. Blessed salvation once for all. Once for all, a sinner receive it. Once for all, over and now believe it. Cling to the cross, the burden will fall. Christ hath redeemed us once for all. I'll tell the world that I'm a Christian. I'm not ashamed his name to bear. He's my Savior, no other name could love me so. My life, my all is his forever, and where he leads me, I will go. I'll tell the world that he is coming. It may be near or far away, but we must live as if his coming would be tomorrow or today. For when he comes and life is over, for those who love him, there's more to be. Eyes have never seen the wonders that he's preparing for you and me. Oh, tell the world that you're a Christian. Be not ashamed his name to bear. Oh, tell the world that you're a Christian and take him with you everywhere.
Wrong? I did not. While another biblical counselor was conducting counseling with a couple, and this is the outcome of it. And the individuals' names are Jill and Harry. Jill and Harry dated. It was just one long conversation, according to them. On days when they could not be together in person, they often talked on the phone, sometimes for an hour or more. And they rarely planned formal dates because their real interest lay in just seeing and talking with one another. Sometimes they got so busy talking that they forget whatever it is that they were doing or what they had planned to go and do. After they got married, Jill and Harry found their conversations declining sharply. Both became involved in other things, and they took up more time doing other things. When they did have an opportunity to sit down and talk, Jill discovered that Harry was less and less likely to speak up or have anything to say. When he came home from work, he generally buried his head in a newspaper, watched the television, or went to bed early. It did not mean that Harry was uninterested in Jill or depressed or anything about that. He simply wanted to relax after a hard day in the office. In the account of a conversation that they had, it says this, honey, Jill said to one day, I really miss our talks. I wish we could talk more the way we used to. Yeah, Harry said. I enjoyed those times too. What would you like to talk about? That comment did not score a deposit in the appreciation bank for Jill. She didn't say it, but she thought, if you don't know the answer to that question, then I guess we don't have anything to talk about. The idea was that she missed that conversation. That was something that she yearned for in their relationship, and communication was highly important to her. Long story short to this, later on they would actually develop a relationship with another couple that lived in their neighborhood, and the conversations went well for both sides, and Jill started to notice that the husband and the other the neighbors began having more conversations with her. Not that they were separated or anything like that, but just whenever they were interacting with one another, those two tended to have more communication with one another. And it just went on for years and years. They would actually meet up at other events and everything and see that way and continue to have conversation, and just built up. And she really enjoyed those conversations. Eventually it led to her explaining to him that she was attracted to him, and he would go on to say that I have been in love with you for many years now. There was no sexual deviance at this point. It eventually led to that. It led to an affair that lasted a long time. All because of communication, or lack thereof. simple point for us as Christians, if we are not communicating with God, how healthy is our relationship going to be? If we are not communicating with one another, how healthy are our friendships going to be? If we are not communicating with our spouses, how healthy is our marriage going to be? Tonight, this is a part 3 in marriage and everything, and the conversation is grafted around conversation as the starting point, but it becomes about conflict and how we deal with conflict in our own relationship. And let me remind all of us again that y'all have been married for a number of years longer than I have. I get that this may be old hat. This may be older information. This is stuff that we've already addressed. This is something that we do not struggle with. This is not a problem. What is the point of church? Did Christ say, go into the world and bring salvation, baptizing? No, he said, go into the world and make disciples, baptizing them. This is about discipleship. It is about training. What we used to have on Sunday evenings was the Sunday night or Sunday school board kind of a thing where we'd all meet together, and it was discipleship training. It was training on how we are to effectively convey the gospel in our lives and convey it to everybody else, and how everybody can see Christ in our actions so that our interactions with one another would bring a gospel-centered, Christ-centered, evangelistic-style conversation. How is it that you are able to have such a successful marriage? It's because of Christ. And now that you can hear what is going on in their lives, you're able to convey godly information to them on how they can have a successful and Christ-honoring marriage. But one big part of that is how we conduct our conversations as husbands and wives, and how we, even amongst one another. If this is about marriage, then yes, we can still pull information from that and use it elsewhere. Just as I said a second ago, if we are not communicating with God, how effective is our relationship going to be with Him? How healthy is it going to be? With our neighbors, with everybody else. So glean what you can from this, but definitely glean the information that God has a plan for how we can deal with conflict or issues within our marriage and help others too as well. And you may think, again, well, JR, I've gotten this all figured out and everything. It's not a problem. You may not realize or think that it could be a problem. But let me tell you, I had a pastor friend that was in his late 50s, and after being married and having daughters that grew up, had their own families and everything, all of a sudden, he was a preacher, just gave it all up instantly. Gave up ministry, gave up his wife, gave up his children, his grandchildren, every bit of it, instantly. Said, I'm out, I'm done. Here's the sobering fact. If you're married or been there, done that, whatnot, and even having in relationships, we can, how do I say this? We can assume that we know everything that we can about our spouse, but are you 100%, 100%, and this is not just a jab, but this is how important it is. Do you 100% know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, your spouse would not deviate from your relationship like this? I know if our family, we just don't know. I don't mean that to scare you or you should go home and have those hard conversations, but we need to be actively pursuing healthy means of communication, marital relationship, keeping them in check, doing all these things to make sure that we're keeping our relationships healthy and happy and moving forward in a Christ and God-honoring way. Not out of fear, but because about that it is right to do so. God expects us to maintain the relationship that mirrors the relationship of Christ to the church and the relationship that we have with one another. It's not meant to be something that we just, blasé, whatever. Marital conflicts, whenever I say conflict, I don't mean violent, I don't mean angry or rip-roaring and hooting and hollering and getting vile and nasty with one another, but just disagreements. And sometimes they can develop into disagreements that are never resolved. And guess what that does? You're creating a gap or a wall between two individuals that is unhealthy, is unnecessary, and it can cause more damage beyond your relationship to everyone else. As I said, knowing a minister that gave up everything in his life, the individual was a mentor to me for most of my young adult life, and then all of a sudden they're gone. I can't communicate with him. I can't get a hold of him. I hear rumors from other people where he's at, what he's doing, and it's just gone. All the relationships that have been built have been ruined because of problems that could have been resolved in a relationship and marriage. And let me say this. Conflicts in marriage is not the problem. They're not. It's how we conduct business whenever we deal with these conflicts or issues. It's how we deal with them. That's the issue, and that can be the issue. Here's the truth. We all fight. Amen? We all argue. We all disagree. We all have issues that we want the other person to hear or convey or respond to or correct or do something. We all have that. So don't think because you've had problems in a marriage or you have currently or there will be, it doesn't mean that there is something wrong with the marriage. If you are avoidant, if your first response is to make the other person feel guilty, if your first response is to make them feel inadequate, if you're trying to hide the problem, if you're just pushing it off to the side or just, whatever, okay, sure. Just, okay, whatever it takes, let's just be done with it and over with. That's it. Okay, I'll do whatever. Just seceding. That's a problem. You have to deal with issues. You cannot just let them go by. There are different ways of how you handle conflict. One of the dumbest ways that came out of the 80s was, I'm pretty sure you probably heard of these or seen them in movies, where a secular psychologist would get in, or therapist would get in and give you both foam bats. Did you ever see that? And if you said something you didn't like, you'd hit them. That's one of the stupidest, dumbest things that has ever come out of psychotherapy. That is not a reason you're giving the permission to hit your spouse. Yes, it's all fun and games with a noodle, but I'm sorry, things can metastasize, because then not only you would be like, oh, I wish I had that foam bat. Oh, I wish I had an aluminum bat. Hey, I do have this frying pan. Hey, I do have this knife. Hey, I do have this gun. You're building up, and the problem is what you're doing is you're lightly quenching an outlet to how to deal with a problem, and you're just kind of like just getting a drop of water in the mouth of a person whose mouth is on fire. It's not really going to do much except make you want more. But there's an individual, he's a researcher, his name is John Gottman, and he wrote a book, it's Why Marriage Succeed or Fail. In that, he gives a couple of different ways of how you resolve and deal with issues. Number one, and hear me out before y'all start saying, oh, I like that one. Volatile conflict style. This is research which the conflict style conflicts or erupts often. They result in passionate disputes. Both parties voice their position, challenging and refuting their spouse. Hence, the conflict is rarely resolved. That sounds horrible. But listen, listen to this. He says, however, the conflict is countered by all the good times in the relationship. There are so many good things that go on, it counters all those stupid fights that we have. That often happens. Whenever you're able to look and be like, this is really dumb. Why are we arguing about this? And when you look at your relationship and say, golly, we have so much good going on for us. Why is this even a fight? You explode for a minute, and it's over and done with, and you realize, this is not worth it. That's that volatile conflict style. Validating conflict style, this is the conflict style that psychologists and counselors have traditionally taught to clients. And what this is that couples talk, listen, compromise, calmly work out their problems, and there's sometimes mutual satisfaction. Calmly talk, that's ideal, that's beautiful. You can get to that and have good communication. Problem is, most everybody doesn't have control of their own scruples, of their own attitudes, their own tempers, in order to be able to speak calmly. That often happens. It's often never something that is trained, and here's the thing, like I said in discipleship, And what Christ expects from us, especially as you read in Paul's writings, that we are to control our tempers, we're to control our outbursts, our irritation, our temper, and all these things, so that we can pursue something better. Manage our issues. And we're thinking, well, JR, I'm son such age, I've been doing this for years. Wouldn't you love for the next 50 years of your marriage to just be ideal? If we could work through these things, manage our temper, manage our frustrations, learn how to communicate better and softly in all this. Nothing. You lose trust, you lose faith, you lose hope, you lose love, you lose affection, you lose intimacy. And all you do is acknowledge, yeah, well, we're different. We're strong-willed. Well, you're this way, I'm that way. I'm an independent person, you're not. You want this, and I want this, and these issues we just need to just learn to live with it. And that's what's happened for a lot of people. They've learned to listen, learn to just live with it. As I said, whenever back in, I think it was in the 70s, whenever the Sunday night Baptist Union started to just fade away, when we stopped doing classes on this stuff, when we started training on this stuff, guess what had happened? You start producing more couples and more marriages that are, well, you're just this way, you're that way, it's just the way it is, we need to learn to live with it and move on. Okay, fine. Maybe we're a part of that generation. Maybe that's something that's gone on in our lives, in our relationships. If you don't like it, since you are now going to be equipped and learn why that's not a good thing, maybe equip others who come up after you. Don't do what I did. Don't do this. Do what God expects. So with that, Hebrews chapter, lost my brain for a second. Hebrews chapter 12, I thought too. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 14 to 15. Now, I want to say this about Gottman's 3 that he said. A lot of people agree that avoidant and volatile conflicts are absolutely just horrible for marriages. His research showed that it was at least acceptable to maintain the marriage. I'm not saying that these are the best choices. That is not at all what I'm trying to convey to you. And I will convey scripturally what is acceptable. His was to seek the maintenance or maintaining of a relationship, because we're in a generation where people are just saying, trade up, divorce them, get somebody new. I mean, that you might as well just put a sign on your house that says there's a sucker born every day, like they have at all the used car salesmen. There's a sucker born every day. If you get out of a marriage, are you getting out of it because you just don't like them, or is it because you have a problem you're just unwilling to acknowledge? But that comes with that self-examination that we have to have, and we'll talk about the heart here in just a moment. But in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 14 and 15, and I'll read it here in just a second, but what matters for relationship is that we have more positive interactions, actually committing and being deliberate in marriage and in our relationships. Catherine, how do you make a friend? That's good. Let's go. I'm going to ask Sylvia, how do you make a friend? How do you make a friend? Love them. George, how do you make a friend? Work with them. Jeff, how do you make a friend? Yeah. I'm sure everybody's scared now. Jared's going to call me. He's going to call me. Don't look at him. Don't look at him. Don't look at him. Don't look at him. Look at this Bible. Look at the leather bound. But those are the absolute, the initial response that you have leads from your heart. You know, in order to build a relationship, you have to spend time with them. Everything else comes easily after that. You spend time with them, you'll learn to love them, or you acknowledging that love is important for any type of relationship. Communication is there. If you're not willing to spend time with a person, you're unwilling to fix or create something beautiful out of it. It is believed that between 4 and 20 positive interactions are necessary to counter one negative interaction. Think about that. But if all you are pouring into or all you are facilitating or only allowing negative stuff in the house, in relationships, then there's no positivity. You're just going to be, what's going to be the outcome? Everyone's going to be miserable. You got your room, I got my room. I got my chair, you got your chair. I got my time, I got that. That's it. Arguments can sometimes lead to dirty fighting between a husband and wife. A dirty fight is one that alienates and hurts the spouse. When that happens, bitterness, anger, resentment, even thoughts of divorce or violence can take root in a marriage. Often a spouse that has committed some type of dirty fighting, they are doing so because of a profound heart problem, because they don't know what the goal is. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 14 and 15 says, strive for peace with everyone and for the holiness, without which no one will see the Lord. See to it that no one fails to obtain the grace of God, that no root of bitterness, not even a plant, it's the root. Because once you get that weed plant, once that weed takes hold and you get that little bit of root, even if you yank, you got one little bitty piece that's still there, it's going to kick right back up. Now, one root of bitterness springs up and causes trouble, and by it many become ruined, defiled, spoiled. Strive for peace. You understand that word strive? Strive means pursue. Pursue is a powerful word, means to hunt down one's own quarry. Chase it like a hunter. Get after it. You don't quit. Jerry, you told me about this past hunting season that somebody had shot a deer and y'all had to track it through the night and it wound up in a little pond. Why didn't you just give up? You wanted it, didn't you? You wanted that deer, no matter what. This is the same concept in marriage. If you want it, pursue it. Chase it down like a hunter. Now, I know the men can relate. That's that gazelle. I'm going to chase that gazelle. I'm that buck. I'm going to get after. But that's the imagery. Too many times in Christendom, people do not pursue Christ-likeness. They do not pursue discipleship. They do not pursue godliness. It's just, whenever I become a Christian, that's it. Woohoo, I'm saved. Keep going off into the world and doing whatever it is. And then whenever their relationships falter and fail and mess up and they have hard times and they don't understand, well, I'm with God. Where's the discipleship? Where's the training? Where's the godliness that is now being poured into you that you are permeating in your life? We haven't pursued peace. There's no goal. Whenever you become one in Christ, you are not just born again, saved. That's not just the end result. You are sanctified, set apart for something else. We don't pursue godliness in our marriage because we just don't care. If it was important to you, this is a statement that gets some people, they hate this. If it's important to you, y'all know it? Make time for it. There's a problem in Christendom that where people do not take time for godliness. We don't take some things serious. You want to be, y'all know the old joke, you know how to get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. It's not about directions. You want to get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. people don't practice Christendom. Things are just not important anymore. And it's clear in a lot of marriages, in a lot of relationships. They don't find the goal is to pursue peace and for godliness. And for marriages, we have to pursue peace. It is so easy to lose our tempers, to get frustrated, agitated, irritated, and just go off. And here's the thing. I can't remember the scientific name, there's a chemical reaction whenever anger and frustration enter your system. One, it's adrenaline, but there's some reaction there. But as soon as you get that irritation and frustration, for a lot of people, it's enjoyment. There are people that like to fight. They may not even realize that they enjoy fighting, because it happens more in men. Sorry, guys. It happens more in men because we like to be challenged. We want to be tested. I want to be not so much in the marriage, but psychotropically, we want to, psychologically, not tropically, we want to be able to get that victory. I want to win. I got to have it, even at the sake of berating my spouse. But if we pursue peace, if we reach for that goal, everything's going to be all right. But that needs to be the goal in our relationships and in communications and in conflicts. Not to be right, not to get one up on them, not to go, aha, I was right, I knew it. Not to get the point across, not to make them into something different, not to conform them into what you think they ought to be as a spouse. No, it's for peace sake. It's to gain peace with the one you're living with and the one you're around all the time. Peace. Haley is my absolute best friend. I love all of y'all, but I've told y'all that before. I think she left because I probably talk about it and embarrass her. I had no interest in dating her. None. I enjoyed spending time with her. She was a great friend. I fell in love with her. But thank God I developed that relationship as a friend before anything else, because I would have probably ruined her. Because I was a horrible human being. For peace. As I said, there's a heart problem. If you have a bad heart, or you could say a psycho-spiritual proclivity for revenge, getting back, getting that win, I want to prove them wrong. I want to say I want to be right. Everybody wants to be right. Nobody wants to be wrong. You prioritize that, you're never going to fix a relationship. There's no pursuing of peace. Because you're not pursuing peace, you're pursuing a win. But if we have a bad heart, that individuals that are intent on harm, they need to change unhealthy habits. I left them over there. God, I really need them. Did Haley leave? Could you go into my office? To the left of my computer, I really wanted these. Oh, it's unlocked, but you can get into the building this way just in case, the brown key. To the left of my computer on the brown countertop, there's a stack of papers, and the top of it says, there's like questions. There's like 8 or 9 questions. They're all blank. They're right there, should be right there to the left. If not, then I moved them to my desk. But if you'll grab those for me and bring them, I appreciate it. I'm so sorry, and I had told myself to bring them. Here we go. Bad heart can destroy a relationship, a marriage, or anything unless it's cured. You have to have the cure for it. Let me see if I can go around this and come back to it. Sorry. While he's going to do that, let me give you this quote. The difficulty with marriage is that we fall in love with a personality, but we live with a character. Not being character like a funny person or anything like that. It's now we're living with who the real person. We finally discover the character without taking the time beforehand. Now, we may, and I agree, marriage is marriage, period. We stick with it, thick or thin. You've now discovered the character. We need to learn about that character. There are traits that we have, or that we particularly appreciate more, that we desire more in a relationship. One whenever I do marriage counseling with individuals, and I did it a couple weeks ago with the young man and woman that I was married, I told them that there are things that she desires, there are things that you desire. They very rarely line up the same. Number one, for most women, because I don't want to draw it out here, and I won't ask y'all, because if I asked and then the spouse is like, oh, I didn't know that, and then they get elbowed or in trouble. But one of the very first things for women, and let's play the guessing game, can y'all think of what the number one thing that women desire most out of a relationship? That is a need that they need to have? Number one, y'all guess. Security. Love. Love is the glue that holds all these things together, but absolutely. Anybody else? Communication. Communication is broadly, statistically, the number one thing that women desire in a relationship. Now, can anyone guess what number one generally is for men? Okay, so now we're going from there. It's either number one or number two. You know where it lines up for women? 5 or not even on the list. You get that. You know what the second one is? Security. Number 3 for women is generally financial security. Number 2 for men generally is intimacy. Not sexual intimacy, but not intimacy, it's words of affirmation. Sitting there saying, hey, I'm proud of you. Hey, I love you. Hey, you look cute. Hey, I like you in those Wranglers. Those kind of comments, those kind of things are generally what number 2 are. Is that them? Yeah. Hopefully. Yes, this is it. I'm going to give y'all these and let y'all pass them around, and y'all look through them, and we'll look at them briefly together. But if y'all can pass them around, take a copy, and just pass them back and around. I'll put some over here. Thank you, sir. Oh, I don't need one. So here's the thing about having a bad heart and what we had talked about, and the bad heart can destroy, and this is a spiritual heart. But back to a physical heart. If a physical heart has hardening of the arteries, what do you generally have to do? Rotor-rooter it. What else do you have? I mean, you're having to go see a doctor and do what? Get it checked regularly. Get it fixed. Do something about it. It's not meant to be that way, correct? It's really not. So then we are to go and get examinations. The same thing with this. We have examinations. You have to have a spiritual examination of ourselves. And I tell you this, I remind us this all the time. We are meant to have an examination regularly. Part of coming to church on Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, Wednesday nights, or Bible studies, or all these things, you have to go into them prepared for an examination. Not going in there trying to go, oh, I want my warm fuzzies. I sure hope the preacher does a good job today and I don't fall asleep. I'm sorry, but you go to the doctor's office, you're generally there to get fixed, healed, worked on. It's to make you healthier. It's easier to see whenever we're going to get ourselves examined to get physically healthier, because we deal with that more predominantly throughout the day. We can tell if we're slowing down. We can tell if our knee is getting bad. How do you tell if your spiritual heart is having problems? Sure. If you're thinking about everything else other than Him. If your desire isn't to do anything godly, if your desire isn't to work at spirituality, if your desire isn't to work at a relationship, if your desire isn't to listen to somebody else preach or read your Bible daily, then you probably got a heart problem, plain and simple. If you're not engaging in God's Word, if you're not engaging in spiritual growth, you have a heart problem. Period. Fire me, hate me. You cannot have a healthy relationship if you do not engage yourself with the one that you are in a relationship with. You are harming yourself and harming others. I'm not going to read through these, but definitely please do. I hopefully printed enough for everybody to have a copy. Here's the challenge for tonight. This is all I want you to do. Go home tonight. This is the one time I'll tell you to get away from your spouse or somebody else or anything. We're dealing with these things. I've heard from people in this congregation that know someone that's going through these things or going through problems. It's not alien to us. You may know somebody that is going through marital issues or conflicts with other relationships or whatever it is. Number one has to be that you stay calm. If we deal with one another, with issues amongst one another, if we're dealing with issues with our children, grandchildren, or neighbors, something, we have got to be the calm person in the room. You heap those coals on, let the conviction burn in them correction. You don't meet frustration with frustration. We don't answer the call of anger with more anger, more yelling. Remaining calm, especially in relation to marriage, the response is most likely going to be that they remain calm. Or they get so annoyed with you that you're just so calm and quiet that they elevate, but you still remain calm and cool and collective. If you feel so angry and upset that you will not be able to deal with a conflict in a rational, reasonable way, take a time out. Move away from the situation. Just say, hold on. Let's stop for a minute. Move on. And then come back to the problem and deal with it again. Number two, address one conflict at a time. It is very common to just bombard. We'll deal with a similar issue that happens in relationships, but every issue has its own solution. You don't have a magic solution for every single different problem. You have to be able to deal with one problem at a time. Number three, avoid accusation. If you walk in and say, if I was, Barbara and I were in an argument with one another, I would say, you hurt me. Does that sound accusatory or does that sound just open-ended to where it's able to be understood and interpreted as, oh, I caused problem? Is that accusatory or that means, am I just making an accusation on it? Absolutely it is. How would you respond to me if I just barked at you and said, well, if I barked at you, period, you'd probably punch me in the nose. But if you'd be calm. That's right. Number one, but you wouldn't appreciate it, but it would most likely create more problems. Instead of making an accusation, emphasize how their actions made you feel and what the result of it was. But to stand there and just say, when you did this and you, calmly respond, when you said that, it really hurt. Saying it calmly. Don't think that even if you say, I'm not going to be accusatory, well, that made me feel so bad. The conversation is probably not going to go very far even in that point because you missed step number one, like Barbara said. Number four, don't generalize. This is something you can tell. This happens quite often. Definitely convey this. One big important one. When you say always, or you never, or you're absolutely doing this, that's not a good way to have a conversation because almost 99.9% of the time it is an exaggeration. And if you're trying to have an intelligent, rational conversation to deal with an issue, exaggerations are not healthy or productive. I know what you're thinking. Is JR capable of not being exaggerated and being crazy and wild and loud all the time? Absolutely. We have to be able to turn that switch off and know how to have an intelligible conversation without raising it so much, because then the point of the conversation is moved to the side, and now it's about, well, I don't always do this, or I don't never do this. Now that's become the problem. So what we have done is go right back to number 2, where we deal with one problem at a time. You can't bring more to the table than the issue that you're dealing with. Number 5, don't hit below the belt. It is a boxing term, but it happens in marriages. It happens in relationships. Hitting below the belt in marital conflict is an attack on the spouse as a person and not the problem. So that's, again, what we've talked about a while ago. We are now creating an enemy within our spouse, within our marriage. Don't attack the person. Attack the problem. Do y'all know what the number one problem is for most marriages? That's it. But that falls in line with a woman's number 1 or number 2, security. That's why it's very important. We cannot hit below the belt, attack the problem, not the person. If we are delivering these insults or delivering things with the intent of hurting the person or trying to assert dominance, we're hurting not just them, we're hurting ourselves, because we are going to create a barrier that denies a healthy relationship between the two. Number 6, don't stockpile pain. Here's the biggie. Storing up small grievances is counterproductive to marital health. If something affects you, speak up to it. And we all have to learn to not be thin-skinned and just take it on the nose every single time as an assault or an attack on us. We have to learn to do better. We have to learn how to work through these things better, and it starts with talking about the little things so that they don't become big things. Now, here's the caveat, and I'll say this. You cannot be oversensitive and just think, trying to think of something playful, or not playful, that's something minute that is not really a big deal, but you exasperate it into a big deal. Here, I'll just say this. If you respond to a minor thing like underwear on the floor the same way you would if you slammed the car door into a building and scratched the whole thing up. Do we understand the difference? You cannot react the same to underwear on the floor, to a bashed window, or to something grave like this, or somebody yelling and screaming. You cannot do it. The reason why that happens is because there are bent-up frustrations and hurts that have been stored up, that have just, this one more pair of underwear on the floor. No, I'm not speaking from those of you who have told me that there's... Video in my house. I see too many faces going, I'm not going to look. So that is common? I should have a little disclaimer. It says what they do at the end of movies. The circumstances, the situation, the people were not based on anything real. We cannot be held liable for... But which brings on to the part 2 of this, the stockpiling pain. We tend to be sensitive. Whenever we're either confronted with a problem, it says, hey, can you do me a favor, and if you're done with this cup, can you just walk it over to the sink? Here's another cup out here on the sidewalk. I got to pick up for you. I keep finding these all over the place. I just sat on one of your fishing lures. I've told you to do it outside. Now, that's not being sensitive. That's tetanus shot waiting to happen. So make sure you clean up after yourself. But again, it goes right back to number one. What was it? If we cannot master number one, throw out 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Whenever we are hurt, we have to remain calm and not bring it and harbor it internally into that heart of hearts, because it will become callous. It will build up that calcium deposits in there, become hardened, and it will become problematic and create further issues. Don't hold the pain in. But again, we all know it's not possible sometimes, but it is a work. This is not saying that we're not useless, and if we failed, throw the marriage out. No, let's throw the relationship out. Throw all this stuff out. No. Recognize the issue, correct it, move on. Won't go over damage control because we've pretty much covered damage control on a lot of this stuff. But let me close with this. Back to Hebrews. We strive for peace with everyone, and holiness. Those things are paramount to our relationship with Christ. They are most important to our relationship with God. God is not the author of chaos. We are meant in marriage to resemble the relationship with God to the church. And yet, it is supposed to be a mirror, yet we are bringing chaos into our relationships because we are unwilling to bend, yield, or change, or to learn and to practice something new. Maybe you haven't learned what your spouse appreciates. Tonight may be the night to just go, what is it that maybe I've missed something in our relationship? Is there something that maybe I've missed? Well, JR, the status quo has been good for 80 years. I don't want to change it now. Again, we're striving to be Christ-like. We ought to pursue whatever we can in correcting or leading the relationship toward more God-centeredness than self-centeredness. Verse 15 says, see to it that no one fails to obtain the grace of God, that no root of bitterness springs up. There are roots in marriages that have no business being there. We have to eradicate it. Have to dig it out, get rid of all of it. Can't just pull it up from the top and leave the root. Have to dig it out. You have to be deliberate. I tell this to students all the time whenever I minister to them, and they say, how do you pursue godliness in life? Be deliberate. Be deliberate. Be a Christian on purpose. You have to make the effort to daily examine your walk, what you are doing. That's a lot of work. Yes, like praying without ceasing. It is meant to be constant. Otherwise, more problems will spring up, and it will defile everything else around you. And then our friends, our neighbors, our children, our grandchildren will see it and go, well, that's how my mom and dad did it. That's how Mamaw does it. That's how Pawpaw does it. That's how they all do it. That's just what I'm used to. Be something different for this world, because marriage, right now, nobody's getting married because they see no value in it. Is there a value in your relationship? Is there a value in your marriage? And make sure that everybody sees it and knows it. Is there a value in your relationships with one another? Make sure that people see it and know it. Make sure that people want to be like you so that you can tell them, I'm only like this because of Christ. With that, any thoughts or anything before we dismiss?
One scripture says, "Speak peace with all that is within you, with all that is within you."
Absolutely. All right. Brother James Roy, would you mind dismissing us in prayer this evening, sir?